ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Psycho Gold, and today we are checking out today's recently released death battle between One Punch Man's Genos and Marvel's War Machine. And this is a fight that I think a lot of people are excited to see. Now, traditionally, when I react to death battles, I tend to cut out the talking parts. However, if you've seen my previous couple of death battles, you'll know that I've now started leaving the analysis segment in, purely due down to the fact that so many people keep asking me to. As far as my thoughts go as to this particular fight, I know a lot of people have been confused because their knowledge of War Machine only comes from the MCU, and if it was that version of War Machine against Genos, then this wouldn't even be worth watching, in all honesty. That's an easy one to pick. However, the version of War Machine that exists in the comic continuity is a bit of a more difficult proposition because War Machine has had, shall we say, some interesting versions over the years. His armor has become alien. He was sort of like a cyborg android at one point. His armor versions have had almost as many as Tony's, so saying that he is going to get flat out beat just because of the version of War Machine that people are more used to, yeah, that's a bit of a bold statement. Genos is very, very powerful in One Punch Man, despite the fact he always loses, but in any other anime, Genos would be that sort of main character, has plot armor backing him up, and the whole point of One Punch Man is he isn't the main character, so he doesn't just automatically win every fight, even though he is stupidly powerful comparison to a lot of other anime characters. So it is at the end of the day the battle of what some might have once referred to as the Sidekicks, because War Machine was one, let's face it, although he has evolved into his own character, and I'd say Genos has kind of done the same thing. So without further ado, let's see what exactly these guys are going to take into account, after which I shall see whether or not I still think it's going to be a close fight. I'm actually kind of leaning towards War Machine off the bat, even though first instinct is Genos, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of leaning more towards War Machine, but we'll see after the analysis, and I'll update you guys then. Right, let's do it.
Sometimes the most awesome heroes aren't born, they're made. Like when I got my shotgun leg.
Well, at least some heroes know what to do with their new abilities.
Like Genos, the cyborg sidekick of
Showing
One
Ash
Punch
in the
Man.
background there.
And War Machine, best friend and understudy to Marvel's Iron Man.
He's Wiz and I'm Boomstick.
And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to
So
find
they
out who
were
would win
basically
a
confirming
death
that
battle.
it is the battle of the Sidekicks.
You ever think about how if there weren't so many villains blowing up fictional places, we wouldn't have so many awesome heroes?
Genos was a happy 15-year-old living a quiet life, until his family and town were obliterated by a deranged cyborg.
Thankfully, he was saved by a scientist, and Genos had one request. He wanted to be a powerful cyborg too. Weird.
His request was turn me into Mega Man. I played so much of it as a kid.
No, this was a means for revenge. Genos set out on a walkabout of justice. Though it wouldn't be long
look at
until
that
he
high
found
quality
his match
artwork.
in the one and only Mosquito Girl.
This bug's making me pitch a tent, and not to keep her out, if you know what I mean.
Ew. Luckily, another hero stepped in to save the day.
Look out! It's the One Punch Man himself!
Understandably impressed, Genos asked that Saitama take him on
I was
as
gonna say,
his
I remember that.
Caped Egghead here wasn't too excited about having a sidekick, but they eventually became buds.
The two were quite the dynamic duo. Genos in particular rose to fame thanks to his adoring fans.
Yeah, he's pretty popular with the ladies, obviously. No such luck for Baldy McPuncherson, though.
To improve his hero work, Genos received numerous
Which surprises
upgrades and
me given
repairs
that
from
he's
Dr.
older.
Kusino, the same man who turned him into a cyborg in the first place.
Mostly because he can't get out of a fight without something getting blasted off. He's got super durable armor over his entire body, and he can pop his limbs on and off like a friggin' lizard tail.
Genos' limbs and
Well,
body
he can
are
now,
incredibly
because he
strong,
upgraded
able
them all,
to
didn't
easily
he?
defend against
In the last
powerful
season of
attacks.
One Punch Man.
And the metal that makes
So
up his body
it doesn't
has been
immediately
upgraded to
cripple him
protect
if everything
against
gets
stuff like
popped
acid
off.
or heat, on top
can
of
remote
boosting
control
his
them,
speed and
basically.
overall power.
He has multiple niche upgrades as well, such as an adhesive he can spray from his heels to immobilize foes.
Talk about a sticky situation, right, Wiz? Well, he only needs to use the goop if he hasn't already noticed his opponents with his hyper sensors or weird cyborg eyes, which can zoom and enhance the most distant of evildoers. Dun dun!
His eye can see in infrared or track image signatures.
And it can shoot a blast of blinding light. Solar flare!
But there's far more weaponry across his body. Hidden blades, arm missiles, and electric shocks, just to name a few. With his rocket boosters, he moves
It
faster
does make
than
you
almost
chuckle
anyone,
listening
and he
to
can
all
even
of
fly.
this.
Well,
That's just a
sort of.
reminder of how
Didn't even
powerful he
mention that
is.
his arms have freaking
And
cannons in
he
them.
still gets
These are
horrifically
his
beaten
incinerators,
almost every
powerful
fight.
blasters of fire of which he can control the size of the resulting explosions.
And slapping both arms together makes the more powerful spiral incinerator blast.
Oh,
Then
okay.
there's his ultra helix incinerator.
Obviously, this is stuff that
If
hasn't
only
made its
I
way
had
to the
two
anime
shotgun
yet.
Legs, I could put
Oh,
both
no.
of them together
That
for
bit.
an ultra leg blast.
Oh yeah, no, I
How would you
vaguely remember
even-
that now.
Oh, I mean, it's not that hard. All you do is first you lift
But we
one
definitely
leg
haven't seen
like
that
this,
chest
and then
beam thing.
You just lift the other one. Oh, God, I fell on my keys.
Anyway, the incredible
Yeah, 'cause
energy
he
of
used
his
it against
ultra-helix
the big
incinerator comes
millipede.
directly from a power core
I was
housed in
actually
his
just
chest,
gonna say
which
that I
powers
remember his,
most of
you
his
know, when he
tech.
showed up, he
But
was
even
actually
with
pretty
so
good
much
against him.
firepower,
Not
his
that it
physical
helped.
attacks are awesome too. Like the time he jet drive arrow kicked this elder centipede asshole so hard in the teeth.
His incinerators are powerful enough to eradicate monsters, buildings, and even mountains.
By using the smallest mountain in the world as a reference, the size of the damage and the fact that he vaporized that thing makes it a feat worth 66 kilotons of TNT.
Not only is Genos strong, he's incredibly fast, moving faster than the human eye can see. He targeted and struck this city-destroying meteor rocketing through the sky.
And those big boys are no joke.
What big boys?
Meteors! Those things killed the dinosaurs.
Well, the fact that he was able to actually hit the big boy, not just target it, means he must have been
I
moving
like the way
200
he
times
said that.
faster than
He's so
sound.
proud of his
Genos
knowledge.
is badass enough that he can survive getting hit with his own incinerator cannons, on top of managing to withstand getting crushed by mosquitoes. Like, a shit ton of them.
By measuring the size of that swarm, we deduced he's being crushed by 65 trillion mosquitoes, a combined weight of 358,000
I'd love to know how they did the maths on that
tons.
one.
Please, God, let me go any way but that.
While a skyscraper-sized
I'm right there
bundle of
with
bugs
you.
is impressive, Genos has also withstood a runaway train slamming into him.
Luckily, it didn't make a dent on his power core. Without that, he wouldn't be able to do pretty much anything.
Right. The
Oh, look, a
power
list of
core
people
is
he's actually
unfortunately
defeated.
The core of his weakness as well.
Oh, I was just about to do that one. Anyway, one time, Genos tried to use that core to self-destruct just to kill that annoying mosquito chick. Now, that might sound crazy to you, but have you ever had to deal with 65 trillion mosquitoes all at once? I'd do it.
Regardless, Genos has shown time and time again that he's a fearsome hero to contend with.
Sure, he hasn't found his family's killer yet, but he has found a new family with Saitama and friends, and he'll keep getting
Sorry, guys.
stronger
My
and
eyes have been
stronger.
giving me jip all day.
I will eliminate you. Stay right where you are.
Oh, okay, that's what he sounds like in English. Never listened to One
For
Punch
some
Man in
young
English.
boys like James Rhodes, joining the military seems the best way of making something of themselves.
And Rhodey fit right in with his knack for machinery. He got top marks in the army and became a pilot.
Eventually becoming an expert in aviation engineering and military combat. Then, on one fateful mission, his helicopter
Formerly a
was shot
cyborg.
down.
Things didn't look good, but then Iron Man showed up.
Turns out Rhodes wasn't the only one in trouble. Tony Stark was stranded without enough power for his suit and asked for his help. The two began an epic adventure that turned them into close friends. Rhodes stepped into the shoes of a superhero and became a man his younger self would be proud of.
And being Tony's best bud had some perks, like taking over as Iron Man sometimes. Who wouldn't jump into that suit at the first chance?
Next time.
Next time, baby.
And eventually,
And was
Tony
never
offered
seen
Rhodes
again.
a superpowered suit of his very own.
That's when regular old James Rhodes became War Machine. Oh yeah, it's like Iron Man but with more guns.
Rhodes had spent
Yeah,
years trying to find
I've
his
always
place in
preferred the War
As
Machine look, I'm not gonna
he
lie.
found a way to truly make something of himself.
He looks like a
He
mech.
already had tons of combat experience from the army and a bit of PTSD, but you know, you win some, you lose some. He can do way more anyway. He's a multi-talented badass.
Tony has provided Rhodes with multiple War Machine suits throughout the years, each improving upon the one before it.
Oh, and these babies are a beautiful piece of work. Just
I like the
look
fact
at all
that they
those
referenced
weapons.
in this that
The
he's
suit is
actually
a
good with
specialized
machines and has a
variation of the
brain,
typical
whereas
Iron
in the
Man
MCU
armor,
he's just like
focusing more on
a pilot,
firepower
you
than
know?
tactics and maneuverability. Clearly, its
He's
alloy
still
is
quite
composed of
skilled,
titanium
but
and
it's like they would
vibranium,
determined
like
to
Captain
not make him
America's shield,
smart like
which
Tony.
means it's both
Or
extremely
not like
durable
Tony, but
and light
you know
enough
what I
to
mean,
fly at
similar.
incredible speeds. Very important given the computers, life support systems, and other devices housed within the unit.
That's not even talking about what Rhodey fights with. His fine-tuned ride's got repulsor rays and a unibeam in the chest. And did I mention guns, and more
Not sure
guns?
what that game was.
Gotta look at that. Machine guns,
Where he was defending
Gatling
Black
guns,
Widow.
laser guns, flamethrowers,
I thought I'd
the
played
works.
pretty much all of
The
the
suit
Marvel
can
games,
generate electromagnetic
aside from the
pulses,
really, really
particle
bad
beams,
ones,
and
so
even
I'm wondering
drain
if
energy
that's
from
what it's
opponents.
from, the Iron
this
Man
baby's
game.
so sweet, I felt inspired to upgrade some of my own arsenal, if you know what I mean.
I don't think I want to.
I got a new gun! It was white when I bought it, but I accidentally washed it with my hat. So obviously I'm pretty hyped about the guns, but the armor has a lot of really cool other things too.
His most up-to-date suit includes incredible chameleon systems that allow him to not only become invisible, but intangible, bypassing scanners and phasing through walls.
So he
No,
can
I
basically
really
turn
use
into a
that,
Lemillion.
next time you try
That's
to
not something I
stab
knew he
me
could
with a
do.
trident.
It was one time! And in the most dire of circumstances, War Machine has a self-destruct function he can call upon to make sure his tech doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
I mean, this work of art can scan for things like weird light and electromagnetic signals. But even if Rhodey doesn't see it coming, he can handle the craziest of attacks.
Not only has he been thrown through a mountain with enough force to cause an earthquake,
He survived getting nuked. You see the size of that crater? Compared to War Machine himself, this looks like the explosion was over 2.5 megatons of TNT.
and the suit is fast enough to fly into orbit and out into space.
Take that, Elon Musk! No, but please send me one of your flamethrowers. Sorry, not a flamethrower. I see you.
Given how it only takes War Machine about 10 seconds to exit the planet's orbit, and measuring the distance he's traveled, this puts him at flying speeds over Mach 620.
And while he may be
Well,
speedy,
I'd say that
Rhodey's
gives him a
also
massive
strong enough
advantage
for
in
his hits to be
speed,
the first
wouldn't you?
and last. He's
Compared
lifted cars,
to,
thrown
Genos.
tanks, and tossed a dude so hard he destroyed a spaceship.
Not to mention the fact that Tony created the War Machine suit to be on par
Piloted
with
the
his
Iron
own
Man suit
Man
expertly with no
And
prior
remember,
training.
Rhodey
That's
even
actually a pretty
acted
good
as Iron
statistic to
Man for a
point
while.
out.
So plenty of what Tony can do, he can do too, including
Mm-hmm.
the time Tony blew up a massive rock the size of Manhattan.
Of course, everything he's experienced as a superhero and in the army hasn't exactly been the best for his mental state, which has unfortunately left him with pretty drastic cases of PTSD and survivor's guilt, even sometimes feeling he's not worthy of the high-tech armor he wears.
But he'll push past it to rescue his friends as well as the rest of mankind. Time and time again, Rhodey's proven that Tony isn't the only armored Avenger. Also, did I mention the guns?
Oh, I love that scene in Iron Man 2. I wish that version of War Machine had stuck around a bit longer.
Alright, the combatants are set, and we've run the data through all
As nice as I like the new
But first,
look for
we'll
War
tell you
Machine,
about
that
him so you
heavy,
don't end up
bulky,
looking
big
like One Punch
machine
Man.
gun on the back.
This episode of Death
I do
Battle
like
is
it.
sponsored by...
So, I've got to be honest, I was originally leaning towards War Machine because of the handful of things I knew about him from the comics. But now that I've actually listened to it and heard all the facts, they actually didn't talk about some of the things I thought they would mention for War Machine. But if they're going to include, you know, all the things that they've just mentioned, like the fact he can become intangible, that kind of gives him a pretty big advantage. He's faster than Genos. The only thing I'm not quite clear on is whether or not he can survive Genos's really big attacks, because he can survive being nuked, but I can't quite remember what the number was that they came up with for Genos's big superpowered attack, but I don't think it's on the same level as being nuked, purely down to the fact that Genos has been, shall we say, knocked about so many times with things that I don't think could survive a nuke, so I'm very much back leaning towards War Machine is going to take this one. Now, I could be wrong, and if Genos does pull out a win, I won't really be that fussed, because I like both of these characters, but I do think that War Machine is going to take this win. Now, somebody actually told me that this fight is entirely hand-drawn, and looking at the little preview bit we got earlier, it does appear that that is the case, and if the entire fight is actually hand-drawn, then hats off to the animators, whoever you are, because they have been slowly putting in more and more hand-drawn elements to these fights for quite a while, instead of using sprites or 3D models that are clearly from, you know, other sources. And hand-drawn animation takes a long time, and trying to get it to look really good, especially when you're using a character that has anime or cartoons behind it, I'm very curious to see what this looks like. So without further ado, let's dive in. No! My god, he spilled his coffee.
Hey there! Destruction of property is a serious offense, young man.
One more of you, huh? Come for vengeance? I'll turn you to scrap!
Okay, that was a little bit too easy. Come on, Genos, you can do a bit better than that. But the animation, man. Okay. I'm really liking the music too. Oh, nice. He's wearing him down. He's getting a few good shits in.
Say cheese.
They look suspiciously more like lasers than guns.
Need a hand?
I already have one!
Yeah, he can reassemble himself, so they are taking that into effect. Ideal.
I don't fall apart that easy.
You kinda do. I don't think that's enough to get him though. Oh, Genos is kind of pulling it back though. You see, in the air, I just think War Machine has a huge advantage. Oh, unless of course he takes his jets out. Well, that changes things. So was that just invisibility, or was that?
I guess he ran off. That suit was ugly anyway.
Ugly! This is my Sunday best!
Oh, this is the best fight they've had in ages. This hand-drawn animation is amazing. Oh, who's gonna win? Oh! What? No, didn't kill him. He's not even trying to fight back anymore. He's like, yeah, this is nothing.
Come on! Die already!
He went intangible. Oh! Yeah. Game over.
Not yet! I'm taking you with me!
Oh, he's gonna. Ooh, okay. Jesus. Nope. War Machine's still standing.
Don't talk to me.
You got it.
KO! Well, looks like Genos is Geno more.
Genos was certainly a serious threat in the field of
Well,
battle. However,
called
Rhodes
it.
held a solid advantage in many different
I was gonna
aspects.
say, War
He's
Machine
had
just
years
seems
of training
to
in
have
the
too many
military,
advantages
even
in my
before
book.
becoming a superhero, which means he's been doing this for way longer.
Stratagems aside, let's compare their power output. At his best, Genos had kicked the Elder Centipede backward.
Which was freaking huge.
According to an interview with a One Punch Man manga illustrator, Elder Centipede's body measures 15 meters wide. With that and scaling to its surroundings, we determined its full size to be over 700 meters long. The force to knock aside something this large would have to be over 15 megatons of TNT.
But
Not
War
bad.
Machine's got the edge over that. Remember the giant rock that was
Yeah.
the size of Manhattan?
I was
They
gonna
used
say.
footage of Manhattan and the height of the rock.
That's the
We
thing,
found
though,
that
once
the
you start
energy it would
taking
take
in
to
comic
shatter a
book
rock
feats,
of
these
this
things
size
just get
comes out to
ridiculous.
Over 280 teratons of TNT.
Way
Yeah,
more
that's,
than Genos
that's just a
knocking
bit
around
more.
the big bug. War Machine's orbit-breaking flying speed proves he's a lot quicker too. But even if he could get a hit in, Genos had no way to counter Rhodey's energy draining tech
Yeah.
and Ghost Chameleon mode.
That little
Genos was
box
certainly a powerful
pretty much just
contender,
put to
but
bed
War
my only
Machine's
thoughts of how
overwhelming
Genos could
firepower
win.
and
So
high-tech abilities were just too much for the teenage cyborg.
Yeah, War Machine was on the road to victory.
The winner is War Machine.
that was great.
Thank you for watching this episode of Death
Oh,
Battle
wow.
Battle
Who's
Music
next,
Series.
then?
You can find it linked in the description below. And you can check out a link to the Death Battle card and dice game.
An anime I'm not familiar with. Oh, a Comic Guy Kill, okay. Probably won't watch that one, in all honesty. But we'll see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Death Battle's War Machine versus Genos, and I pretty much thought from the word go that War Machine was going to take that, just because from previous moments where I've been looking at War Machine myself, I know how powerful War Machine is, and as a kid, I actually always preferred War Machine to Iron Man, which is one of the reasons why I knew certain things about War Machine and just how ridiculously strong he is. And like they said, basically if Iron Man can do it, War Machine can do it, so can Genos beat Iron Man? No. So can he beat War Machine? No. And obviously it's not quite as simple as that, because they have made quite a lot of effort in making them far more different, especially in the modern comic books, but thankfully Death Battle does take into account all mediums, as a result of which, you know, it's not fair to just miss out stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're always right. There are plenty of Death Battles I don't agree with the outcome of, or one piece of information that they've clung to justify either a victory or a loss, and you're just like, that's just one time out of like 70 years of history, come on, or whatever it may be, you know. But in this particular instance, my gut said War Machine right from the word go, and it was right. I didn't think that Genos had enough power in him to take out War Machine, like I said, comic book version War Machine, and I was correct. So yeah, I'm gonna be wrong, probably. Well, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch the next Death Battle, to be perfectly honest. I don't know who one of the contestants are. It's probably from a really famous anime, and I'm sorry about that. I have no clue who that is, but I know a Comic Guy Kill. It's just not one that I have finished, so I'm not gonna be too bothered about that particular Death Battle until perhaps I've at least finished a Comic Guy Kill. Maybe then I will go and look up who the other person is and see what they're from. But as for this Death Battle, like I said, hats off to whoever it is that animates this, because that was some of the best 2D animation I think I've ever seen. I enjoyed every second of that. Genos felt like he was taken straight out of the anime, not in terms of style, obviously, but in terms of believability, that is Genos, and some of the way that the animation moved him, and his fighting style, and the smoothness of the way his arms and weapons sort of came out. Perfect. Same with War Machine. He was a bit more noticeable because the last time I saw him in animation was probably in the 90s, or was he in Avengers Assemble? I can't remember. But the point is, it was quite a while ago, so seeing him in the sort of modern era of animation is a bit odd, because it kind of had that more simple look that a lot of shows in general go for these days, whereas I remember like the older animation styles, everything was ridiculously detailed in terms of their single cell design. Maybe the animation wasn't great in every single frame, and there were some cut corners, especially with Marvel shows if you were watching the ones that were made in the 90s, for example. But I would rather that be what gets cut than story or personally design. I'd much rather have a realistic or fairly realistic looking character than something that looks like it was made in Flash in the mid-2000s, like quite a lot of cartoons seem to these days. But this, I thought, struck a nice balance. It wasn't as ultra mega detailed as the War Machine that I was familiar with as a kid, but at the same time it was faithful enough that I both enjoyed it and could happily have that be a version of War Machine that I could watch if this was a show. And same thing goes for the voice actors. The Genos English voice actor was fine because I don't listen to One Punch Man in English, so it could have been any voice and I probably would have been happy with it. The War Machine voice I was a bit more picky with. To me, it sounded like he was trying to do a Don Cheadle MCU War Machine, a bit higher pitched than the War Machines that I've heard in animation, especially the one that was done by Uncle Phil, for example. Or the Shredder, for those of you who know him from that perhaps instead. But either way, I did actually think it was a pretty good fit for the character, and yeah, that was the best death battle that they've had for quite a while. And I say that after having said the same thing about Jason versus Leonardo not too long ago. I think this episode and Jason versus Leo has been two of their best episodes for ages. As much as I did enjoy, you know, this season in general has been pretty good, but it does kind of feel like they become a bit too predictable or formulaic, and these last two fights to me seem to have refreshed it and reinvigorated it, especially in terms of the animations. They feel like actual fights now. I don't feel like it's just going through the motions as such. Maybe that's because they've got different people animating, I don't know, but whatever it is they're doing, I hope it sticks. And with that said, guys, I'm going to end this particular one here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, do you think that the right person won? Do you think that War Machine can stomp Genos? Because I kind of already suggested that that was my thoughts, and it turned out to be true. So, people who love Genos, I have no doubt that you'll sound off down below, and I look forward to reading your comments. Either way, guys, if you enjoyed this video, likes, subscribe, all that good YouTube-y stuff that they insist that we say at the end of videos or at the beginning of videos, but I'm never going to say them at the beginning of videos. But until such a time as I return, that is going to be it from me. As always, my name is PsychoGold. I will see you in my next video, but this is me signing out. Have a good night.